Welcome to NCRP 591, lecture for the third week, Applications of Negotiation, Conflict Resolution, and Peace Building. Throughout this graduate program, you have been introduced to many different processes and applications of NCRP. Methods have focused on community, negotiation tactics, mediation, arbitration, online dispute resolution, and peace building. Specific courses in applications have focused on restorative justice, family conflict, labor conflict, public policy conflict, organizational conflict, and international negotiation. This question deals with applying tools or applications of NCRP or designing conflict resolution systems to achieve personal, community, national, and international goals. During this lecture, I will go over the tools of NCRP and describe some examples of community, national, and international goals. The actual learning outcome is demonstrate the ability to appropriately select and apply tools of negotiation to conflict resolution and peace building in order to achieve personal, community, national, and international goals. According to Lax and Sabinus, integrative bargaining is creating value, whereas distributive bargaining is claiming value. To give an old quote about negotiation from De Felice of France in 1778, however, negotiation is not limited to international affairs. It takes place everywhere. There are differences to conciliate, interests to placate, men to persuade, and purposes to accomplish. Thus, all life could be regarded as a continual negotiation. We always need to win friends, overcome enemies, correct unfortunate impressions, convince others of our views, and use all appropriate means to further our projects. Once again, that was from De Felice of France in 1778. The three mediation styles that I consider appropriate dispute resolution are facilitative, transformative, and narrative. All questions related to mediator standards usually apply to the transformative, narrative, and facilitative model. The evaluative model is more used by attorneys. A common mistake I have seen in student interpretations of facilitative or problem-solving mediation is comparing it to positional bargaining. Facilitative mediation is synonymous with interest-based and should not be confused with positional bargaining. There are many different standards of mediation. It seems almost every state has their own standards. These standards come from different state standards and the Association of Conflict Resolution. I spent several years working on the Association of Conflict Resolution's standards for peer mediators, and all of them seem to fall within the introduction statement of the facilitative model when you're starting a mediation process. Advocates of transformative and narrative styles of mediation may have some variations. However, standards of self-determination, impartiality, and confidentiality seem to apply to all styles of mediation. Arbitration often follows the same process as mediation, except documents can be presented for evaluation or discovery, and the final decision is made by the arbitrator or arbitrator. I have found three common variations in how arbitrated decisions are made. First, the decision can be based on the evidence and testimony. Second, each party presents their best, last, and final offer, and the arbitrator decides among the two choices. And there's the fair division method where the arbitrator tries to evenly distribute the outcome between the two parties. The main reasons arbitrations can be thrown out is the arbitrator's misconduct or refusal to accept evidence. You may be involved in some hybrid processes referred to as MED-ARB or mediation-arbitration. These processes add a stipulation that if the parties come to an impasse, the mediator can decide the outcome. I've been involved in mediation processes where the parties ask me to decide what an optimal outcome would be, and if it's not written into what they agreed on in the mediation agreement, I'll avoid that and make them come up with their own resolution. Restorative justice processes include victim-offender mediation, victim panels, restorative conferencing or restorative circles, circles of support, victim empowerment programs, healing circles, offender-generated restitution, and there's some apology programs. There are many models of facilitation and group problem solving. I see these processes as alternatives to parliamentary procedures to making decisions. I often refer to Lawrence Suskind's Breaking Robert's Rules as guidelines when I am facilitating group decision-making processes. Organizations like Everyday Democracy have discussion guides for facilitators on a variety of topics. There are also several models for facilitating change in organizations. Negotiations are usually used when there are 2 or 3 parties or bargaining groups haggling to make a decision. Mediation is used when a neutral third party is introduced to the bargaining process. Facilitation is appropriate when there are more than 3 interest groups or a large number of individuals with their own interest. Usually facilitation attempts to bring consensus among 3 or more parties. I also want to mention there are tools we can't use as non-attorney mediators. Some techniques fall into the unauthorized practice of law or counseling or licensed psychology or psychiatry. As an NCRP practitioner, you must be familiar with the tools and practices which are acceptable in your state codes and are not the unauthorized practice of some other profession. Personal goals are just that, personal. Each individual needs to show how they apply NCRP to meet their own personal goals. One example of this would be monitoring your communications development from exercise in the Robert Bolton People Skills book. You may monitor your improvements in active listening or your mediation success rates. For even reaching this point in the NCRP graduate program meets many of your personal goals. Each community is different, therefore each student needs to share what their community goals are. Where I live on the North Olympic Peninsula in Washington State, we have a community organization, the Local 2020, that sets goals such as reduction in solid waste going to landfills, reducing fossil fuel emissions, increasing local purchase of subsistence from local farms. Community goals vary depending on your location. I'm sure you have several NIMBY or not in my backyard issues where you live. Communities organize around issues that don't meet their goals, such as locating industrial plants near residential areas or placement of casinos. Communities rally around issues in bond measures that build playgrounds, modernize schools, or reduce traffic congestion. You'll vary this part of the assignment based on your own community needs. I found a long list of organizations making national goals. Seems every legislature has his own national goals posted on the websites. Here I put President Obama's goals, which includes goals for the economy, education, health care, immigration, energy, and Wall Street reform. To provide political balance, I looked up the goals on the GOP website, and its national goal was to fire Pelosi. Going through 3 layers of pages down in the site, I found several stated position papers on increasing national defense, health care reform, energy independence, education reform, free market economy advocacy, and more power to the courts. There are many grassroots and non-government organizations that also have national goals. You need to determine how an NCRP process can be used to meet national goals and include whose national goals they're trying to meet. Similar to national goals, there are many international goals. The international goals of a multinational corporation would look quite different than the goals of a humanitarian group. The United Nations Millennium Development Goals include ending poverty by 2015. They also have goals for universal education, gender equity, child health care, maternal leave, combating HIV/AIDS, environmental sustainability, and global partnerships. It is strange how there are vast differences between United States national goals and the United Nations international goals. And I look forward to seeing the reflections and artifacts you post to demonstrate mastery of this learning outcome. Once again, you will post this in the peer review and feedback groups.